The narrative forming around Pierre Poilievre that maybe he just hasn't reached the right audience yet. That the message is solid, it just needs to travel further. But that's not what's happening. Canadians are hearing him. They've been hearing this message for years, not just from him, but from the Conservative Party across multiple election cycles. The wording shifts a bit, the packaging changes, but the core argument stays the same. And after 4 straight losses, 2015, 19, 21, and 2025, all to the Liberals, it's hard to argue that this is a reach problem. At some point, repetition stops reinforcing a message and starts pushing people away. Because the voters who decide the elections in this country aren't waiting to hear the same argument one more time. They've already made up their minds. There's an old truth in politics. The people closest to you will support you. That part's automatic, which is exactly why they shouldn't be your starting point. They're the part you can count on. The work is in everything beyond them. And that's where this breaks down. The base is locked in early, reinforced consistently, spoken to directly. But the broader electorate, the people who don't already agree, they're not moving at all. And that's where elections are decided. Instead of adjusting to reality, the strategy has been to double down. More appearances, more interviews, more platforms. Same message. The assumption seems to be that consistency will eventually convert people. It doesn't. If someone hasn't moved after hearing the same argument for years, saying it louder or more often doesn't suddenly make it land. In a lot of cases, it does exactly the opposite. It hardens resistance. It tells people that there's nothing new here. And that's where the Conservatives are right now. Not struggling to be heard, but struggling to be believed. And lately, you're seeing that play out in another way. Instead of leaning into Canadian media, into spaces where the toughest questions get asked, Poilievre is showing up more and more on American platforms. Long-form podcasts, familiar audiences, friendly environments, Joe Rogan, Diary of a CEO. There's nothing wrong with doing international media. But if you're trying to win a Canadian election, you have to ask a simple question. When do you start talking to Canadians who don't agree with you? Because those platforms don't challenge him the way Canadian media does. They don't reflect the same range of views. They don't force him into that uncomfortable space where persuasion actually happens. He's been openly critical of Canadian media. His supporters will say that's justified. But avoiding it altogether creates a different problem. It starts to look less like strategy and a lot more like avoidance. Because if your message can't hold up under tough questioning, or if it isn't built to engage the people who disagree with you, then it's not a governing message, it's a loop. And that loop doesn't expand. You don't win elections from a safe space. You win by stepping into rooms where people push back, where they question you, where they don't see the world the way you do. Meet them there. That's what's missing. And there's another layer to this. After the loss, Poilievre's been saying that the Conservatives didn't really lose support, that the Liberals simply gained more. Say that again out loud. The voters from the other party shifted to the Liberals instead of to him. Say that out loud again. They didn't come to me, they went somewhere else. That's not a defense. That's the point. If voters are leaving their own political homes and they're not choosing you, that's not random. That's a signal. It means when persuasion mattered most, your message didn't land. Blaming slogans, timing, the other campaign, that doesn't change that. It just avoids the real question. Why didn't they choose you? And we've seen this before. After the 1995 Quebec referendum, Jacques Parizeau stood in front of his supporters and said they were beaten by money and the ethnic vote. That moment stuck, not because of the referendum itself, but because of what it revealed. Instead of looking inward, the explanation turned outward. The loss became something that happened to them, not something they failed to overcome. That's the risk here. Because when the explanation becomes they went somewhere else, you skip the only question that matters. Why didn't they come to you? You can repeat the message. You can explain the platforms. You can point to what the other side did. But until you answer that honestly, nothing changes. That's the only question left. Because at this point, it isn't about reach, it's about substance. It's about whether the message actually speaks to people's lives, their costs, their stability, their future. Right now, for a large part of the country, it doesn't. And until that changes, the result won't change either. This isn't persistence, it's inertia. because Canadians haven't heard the message, because they haven't decided on you. They've decided it's not for them. I'm Chris Michaud. I'm the Canadianist. Subscribe to the podcast and visit thecanadianist.news for more.